Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about left and right hand coordination. And as string players, this is one of the biggest issues that we face. How do we get these two hands to actually work together? How do we get the left hand to always be just a split second early so that the bow does not play before that note is actually ready, the string is blocked. And this is truly one of the reasons that so often passages just don't happen. So if you've ever played a fast passage and felt like your hands are just a mess and you're trying to change notes and then you're hearing the tail end of the previous note, say your scale sounds like you're hearing all of that overlap between the notes, that is just pointing out the fact that your hands are not well coordinated. So how do we solve the problem? Well, as I mentioned a second ago here, the left hand actually needs to be a little bit early in order for the note to speak at the right time. Now, it can't be too early because then, of course, it's not going to be together either. But what happens when you change directions with the bow and the left hand isn't quite ready yet is we hear either the tail end of the previous note, or if there's a string crossing, the tail end of the previous string. So we need to make sure that we're only playing the next note when it is already set. And for that, I have a very simple and very effective exercise for you to try. Now, simple does not mean easy, so you're going to work this up to a faster tempo, but you're going to start real slow, and the most important thing here is to execute it as well as you can, and don't rush to be fast. It really doesn't help at all to play this fast. If you're playing it at a very, very slow speed, but well, it's going to help you a whole ton. So there are two things that we're going to keep in mind. The preparation of the next note, all right, the preparation of the next note that you're going to play needs to take place at the end of that previous note. All right, so I'm going to say that again. The preparation for the next note takes place at the end of the last note that you just played. Now, what does that preparation involve? Well, it might be putting your finger down. It might be taking your finger off the string. Or it might be crossing the string, in which case this is actually a right hand movement. So when we talk about left-right hand coordination, I think a lot of the time we actually forget this one little bit, that it's not always about the left hand being early. It's really just about the preparation for the next note being done in advance. So it's not that we're always just trying to make the left hand come before the right. Yes, that's true. But what happens when you have a string crossing that left hand's not involved and that's still not coordinated? Well, the left hand's not involved. That has nothing to do with it. All of these problems are actually a result of the next note not being prepared in advance. And in the case of a string crossing, that is the preparation. So that needs to happen before the bow moves, right? So preparation is anything that occurs before the bow actually goes and plays the note. All right, so that's the first thing we're keeping in mind. And then the second thing we're going to keep in mind is that this is going to be metronomically exact to start with. So the preparation of the next note for the time being is going to happen at a very precise moment in time. We're going to use the metronome to do this. So you're going to be exaggerating how far in advance you're preparing. And then eventually when you get rid of, when you move beyond this method and then you just play your passage as is, you will see that it's done its magic and it's just going to start to work for you. Now, how many repetitions is going to take you? I don't know, but I promise if you stick with this method long enough, it does work. And it works surprisingly fast. It's very effective. So what am I doing here? Now, what I played at the beginning, my metronome is set to 160, which is pretty quick. And it's not just set to 160, but I also have it set to beat all of the eighth notes. So this is what you heard. Now you see that there's a higher pitch and a lower pitch. That's because it's differentiating for me between the beat and then the subdivision. This is much too fast for us to start with, so I'm going to dial it way back. We're going to go down to 60. 60 is nice and slow. We'll see, maybe that's even a little bit too fast, but I don't think so. That's a good time. Alright, so at 60, here's what's going to happen. You might have a metronome that also blinks, and that might be helpful for you to determine where the beat is. It doesn't really matter. You just pick the strong one, whichever one sounds stronger to you. Usually it's obvious with metronome. And that is where your bow is going to play. Your bow plays on the beat. Your finger or your preparation, whatever it is, happens in between. It happens on that offbeat, right? So I'm going to do this for you before we try and do some of this together. So this is at 60. Here's my beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have the subdivisions. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So that's the preparation. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to show you how I'm doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Playing set, playing set, playing set, playing set, playing set, playing set, playing set. Okay, just like that, and so forth. Now, you know what? That is much too fast for our first time, so what we're going to do, we're going to go even slower. I'm going to go half tempo. We're going to go down to 30, the slowest that my metronome can go. And now we have all of the time in the world, and you can try this with me. So on the second click is where you do the preparation for the next note. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Play, set, play, set, play, set, play, cross. All right, pause here. So this is the right hand preparation that I was talking about. Now, if crossing strings is still a bit of an issue, make sure you revisit this, the mechanics of string crossings. It's very important that you're rocking from string to string, you're not jumping. And in that way, the movement can be the most efficient. And you might also be fascinated to realize that when you cross strings, you actually end up on a slightly different part of the bow. So it's just an interesting little tidbit that eventually might become important. So on that offbeat, my right hand is going to go right for that note. That's the only thing that needs to happen to prepare the G. Now what happens when you go down the scale, when we're going to come back in a little while here, is when you cross, you also have to set your left hand. And ideally those things happen at the same time. So if I play A, lift, G, cross and set. So I cross and set the finger. Cross and place the finger. But what I actually want you to prioritize above all right now are those string crossings when they exist. Because so often we overthink the left hand. We're so concentrated on just getting that finger down that it's time to play and the bow's not on the right string. And so then you get that little messy kind of tail end of the G when you cross. All right, let's give this a try. This is still very slow. C major scale is what I'm playing, by the way. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. C, set, D, set, E, set, cross, G, set, E, set, B, set, C, cross, D, set, E, set, set, G, cross, set, B, set, C, lift, B, lift, cross and place, lift, 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 D, cross and place, C, lift, B, lift, lift, G, cross and place, lift, things really complicated, try saying all of the words while you do this. It's even more septum coordinated. It's a lot of fun. All right, so that is the basic exercise. Now, what you will want to do, especially if you do this without the metronome, is you will want to wait until the last possible minute to set your finger down. And if you don't pay attention, then you will notice, or you won't notice, but somebody else from the outside might, that you start out set, set, and then over time, together, together, together. You see it's becoming less successful. Of course, I'm doing that intentionally. But the problem with that is that you might not even notice that it's happening. You might not get that disconnect. It might still sound like it's well coordinated because you're going so slowly that it's not very hard to just get the hands to play that one note when it's time. But it's so imperative that we get the preparation to happen precisely on the and between those two beats. So important. So even in this very slow tempo, right? This is why I'm using the metronome. I used to teach this exercise without the metronome, and invariably everyone falls into the trap of just lining up the hands exactly at the same time. And because you're still playing with that gap between the notes, it actually sounds like you're doing the exercise. Now, the next step for this, to make it even more clear for you that you are doing it the way you're supposed to, is to be really audible with the left hand. This is not something that you want to do when you play in the final iteration of whatever passage you're learning. You don't want your fingers to be so loud that you can hear them audibly. But it's a fantastic exercise to practice articulating in a way that you can actually hear. So here we go. Getting that finger off the string as soon as you can, like it's hot. So with the kind of audible hits, right, on the way down is pretty clear what you're doing. You're getting the finger down with as much velocity as you can. But what happens on the way down the scale, right? So when we're lifting fingers, that one can be a little bit tricky sometimes to time and to get as much energy. And what I like to envision sometimes is that there's like a little metal plate above, right above the fingers. Like if you take one of the pieces off a glockenspiel, right? And when you lift your finger, you want to hit that, and you want to hit that rhythmically with a lot of precision and quite a bit of force, right? So it's very energetic when you pick the fingers up, just as energetic as when you put them down. So we started this at 30. Here I just went up to 60, a little bit faster. But again, start this as slow as you need. Go down as slow as you need, and then eventually you bring the tempo up, and little by little, you can get to, let's say, 120. You can still do it the same way. Let's try that. 1, 2, ready, go. Always precisely preparing the note exactly between those other two. And then eventually, faster and faster and faster we go, and then we get to 160. You can go faster than 160, you can go slower than 160. It doesn't matter. You just want to have a way to measure your progress. So if you're starting this out at 30, and you're subdividing the 30, and you're getting to a point where, hey, this is easy, little by little, you maybe bump the tempo a few clicks every day. And you don't want to go too far too soon. You don't need to increase the tempo. Like, you don't need to double it in one day, although if you like, you can for sure. But my rule with working with a metronome in this way is that the second that you get to a tempo that is not working, where you're beginning to feel tension, you're beginning to feel like it's taking too many brain cells to just get through the exercise, that's where you pause and you actually go back down and do the last one that was successful. So if you get to 120 and that's the edge, okay, good. You found your edge, go back to 116, play it at 116, finish off on a good note, move on, do something else. When you come back the next day, it's not going to work at 116 directly. You're going to have to go slower first. You're going to have to work back up to 116, but quite likely you'll be able to go a couple clicks further. And if not that same day, or if not the next day, then maybe in a week. But the progress for this is going to be like this. It's not linear, right? You can't just get to 100 today and start from 100 tomorrow. And, that way we'd all be playing at breakneck speed in a matter of like a week, right? So we can't do that. So we have to go back down and then work our way back up to our last PR, and then go a little bit more. And then you do a little bit of that every day. And I promise it is going to get better. I'm going to finish this off by playing it one more time at 160. You're welcome to join me. But remember, if you're not doing it exactly as prescribed, if you're not blocking the string or crossing the string or lifting the finger, preparing the next note precisely during the and of the beat, then you have to go way slower until you get that coordination in place. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and slowly fast. 1, 2, ready, go. There we are. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you give this a try and how it works out for you. Let me know if you have other favorite ways of practicing coordination. I'd love to hear from you. And I will see you next time.